Hey guys, and welcome to an Aspie's Point of View, where I give you my opinion on stuff. So tonight I'm going to discuss Season 3, Episode 9 of The Good Doctor. The episode is entitled Incomplete. And I do want to give a warning that there are spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the episode, you may want to scoot out of this video and come back into it at a later date after you've seen the episode. But for everyone else, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know you like what I'm doing. Please open up a discussion in the comment section down below and hit subscribe so that you can know when I post new videos. Because as you can see, my schedule varies a little bit depending on when I actually see the show. But also my regular videos vary as well because I don't always have a set day that I can sit down and film. So tonight's episode was all about intimacy. And what is intimacy? Who are we intimate with? And is intimacy the act of sex? And so the episode opens with Claire, and we find that Claire has had a one-night stand with a guy she met in a bar. And basically, she looks like she's absolutely mortified by it. I don't know if that's what was actually in her character's mind. That was how it looked to me. She very much wanted him out of her home very quickly, and we do see him leave very quickly. So there's a question of, she had a one-night stand, is that being intimate? And I would say no. Even though they had a physical act of intimacy, even though they had sex, sex itself does not mean intimacy. There's a deeper meaning to being intimate. So I feel like the episode started off showing us an example of sex without intimacy. We then go into the episode and we see Shawn trying to figure out which bouquet of flowers he should bring to Carly. And of course he goes to Dr. Glassman to ask for help. We find out later in the day that it's 6:30 in the morning when he went over there, so a little bit of breaking the boundaries. And we see another intimate relationship, completely different from a relationship based on sex, or a relationship, you know, a male-female relationship, or male-male, or female-female, however your orientation is. We see this father-son relationship, but obviously Shawn is very dependent on Dr. Glassman. And throughout this episode, we see Dr. Glassman basically coming to grips with the fact that he has a wife now, and he can't be there for Shawn every second of every day anymore. And he has to try to get that through to Shawn. So after that scene, Shawn goes into the lab with his chosen flowers, and he very loudly has an intimate conversation with Carly in the middle of a room with a bunch of other doctors inside the room. He loudly proclaims that he wants to have sex tonight, and he hands her the flowers, and basically that's the end of the conversation. I want to have sex tonight. Okay, great. I want to have sex too. Wonderful. He leaves the room. Everyone's just kind of looking at Carly, and she just kind of gestures for all of them to get back to work. That in itself is very interesting, because having an intimate conversation like that in a public space is very abnormal, and obviously can cause serious problems, particularly in the workplace. But in Shawn's mind, it wasn't anything wrong, because he didn't see it as being an intimate conversation. He saw it as regular people have sex. I want to have sex. I'm going to tell my girlfriend that that's what I want. He didn't see the fact that it's supposed to be in private. He actually later asks Morgan to ask him what he's going to do that night. And when he reveals to her that he's going to have sex, she actually does say to him, you know, this is not the time and not the place. You don't want to have that conversation with a colleague. So he's definitely kind of starting to be told, hey, you don't want to talk about this here at work. So Shawn goes to Carly's and he tries. And he says he couldn't finish because she has a tattoo that's incomplete. It's a heart that's only halfway completed. And that's his focus, is the heart. If the heart wasn't there, he could do it. He could have sex. And a lot of people find excuses for why they can't do things because they don't want to admit that it's something that just plain scares them, or it's something that they can't do at the time, or it's something that they need assistance with getting to the point that they can do. So in this case, getting assistance would be seeing a therapist, talking to someone who can actually help him rather than him just reading books and studying about sex, him actually speaking with someone who can help him feel comfortable about it. So we see that. A little bit before then, we get introduced to our patient of the week who has to make a decision that is very difficult for her. She and her future husband have to decide whether they will be sexually active, but she is risking her life every time they have sex, or she has a surgery that makes it so that she cannot be sexually active anymore, but her life is saved. And so there is a secondary story there that really is about intimacy on another level. Is intimacy sex, or is it more than sex? And what I loved was at the end of that patient interaction, each one says to the other, I love you more than sex. And she ends up having the surgery that's going to save her life. And a lot of people may disagree with me. A lot of people may say, no, sex is so important in a relationship. And for some people it is. But for other people, they can find deep meaning in a relationship without having sex. It's just something that people can do it. People can do it and can successfully do it. You can have a good relationship and not be intimate in that particular physical way. You are intimate in other ways. In the episode, they talk about sharing your deepest fears, sharing all of your thoughts and everything that goes on with you. A week, less than a week, after Matt and I started seeing each other, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. I have always said any normal guy would have gone running for the hills because he doesn't want to deal with that. He's in a brand new relationship. Matt wasn't like that. He and I had an intimate relationship without having our bodies in physical contact. I was in a different state, but he was calming me down. He was checking in with me, making sure I was okay. He was keeping me emotionally grounded, and he was my sounding board for my fears. I was terrified. I thought I was losing my dad. And 6 months earlier, we were celebrating because my dad had just gotten a new lease on life. He had a kidney, and we were so excited. And now we get hit with this, and it's like, oh my God, what is happening here? But 1 week into our relationship, I was able to have this intimacy with Matt where I could share my biggest fears and my emotions, and he let me lay everything on him, and he helped share the burden of everything that I was carrying on my back. And that in itself is intimacy. There's no physical contact, but that's intimacy. And so I feel like that was something that the episode was definitely trying to get across. Of course, the episode was also focusing on physical intimacy. The eventual goal, of course, is for Shawn and Carly to be able to have sex. And the question is, how is that going to happen? When is that going to happen? And is it going to happen in a way that is pleasurable for both of them? Because in certain cases, people try to please their partner and end up being upset themselves. And if you don't have an intimate enough relationship where you're talking to each other about all of these things, you don't realize what's going on in your partner's head. You don't realize that your partner has caved for you, or that your partner is, you know, unhappy with how things are going, but they love you, so they're going to do it for you anyways. And I feel like that, again, it shows that in order to have a physical relationship, you kind of need to have a intimate relationship on a deeper level before you can call a physical relationship, the act of sex, intimacy. Because the act of sex on its own is not intimacy. It's so much deeper than that. And I know I keep harping on that and keep repeating that, but that's what the episode was about. And the other thing that it was about was Shawn's attachment to Dr. Glassman. And I, of course, found that very interesting because I very much rely on my mom, my brother, my grandmother, and Matt for everything. I don't make a decision without talking to one of them. In a store, I'll go into a store, try on clothes, take a picture, send it to my mom, my aunt, and my mom's friend, and wait for them to respond to me, and then I decide if I'm going to buy the item or not. It is that bad. I'm that dependent on people, and I'm trying to be less dependent on people, but I know that that's how bad I am right now. And so I saw Shawn going to Glassman all the time, and I thought in my head, this is normal. And then I saw them talking about it and realized, maybe it's not. So when Dr. Glassman decides to put up some boundaries and says to Shawn, you know, we'll have breakfast together. 7 o'clock on Tuesday, we'll have breakfast together. Shawn says that he liked it better when it was just the two of them. And Dr. Glassman is trying to explain to him, but it's not anymore. You have Carly, and I have my wife, and life is changing, and for people on the spectrum, change is hard. And so while I love having Matt, I don't think ever 100% of my troubles, 100% of my concerns, 100% of my decisions will ever be put on him, because there will always be a time where I will need my mom. There will always be a time where I will need my grandma. There will always be a time where I will need my aunt or my mom's best friend. We're all in communication all the time. And what's great is that I do have a large network rather than one person. In the case of Shawn, he only has Glassman. But I definitely feel like there's a sense with me of, you know, I wouldn't be able to function without all of these people in my life. And I can see Shawn being scared that these boundaries are being put up. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the very end of the episode, because Shawn finds out that his father, whom he hasn't spoken with since he was 14, and through the only clips that we've seen, his father was horrible to him, is dying. And he's dying quickly. He only has a few days left to live. And the question on, I think, everyone's mind is, how is Shawn going to react to this? When I found out my dad had cancer, I crumbled. I was a wreck. But my dad and I were incredibly close. We are incredibly close. And so I almost wonder for Shawn if he's going to see it as another patient or if he's going to see it as his father. Because if you think about it, he hasn't seen his father in so long, and his father didn't treat him like a son. Is he really his father? Or is he the genetic material that Shawn came from? I feel like when we watch the show, Glassman is more of a father to Shawn than his father ever was. So I feel like when Glassman had cancer, it was probably harder on Shawn than it's going to be to find out that his dad has cancer. I could be totally wrong. We'll find out in the upcoming episodes whether I'm on the right track or if I'm totally off. But in my mind, I feel like Shawn's going to approach it as though it's another patient with cancer. He may try to help. He may try to figure out a way to solve it using his amazing doctoring skills, where he comes up with these out-of-the-box ideas that no one else thinks of. But in all honesty, I don't know that it's going to break him apart to find out that this man, who he hasn't spoken to since he was 14, is dying. I could be wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And until next time, this has been Aspie's Point of View. Bye, guys.